Hey everyone, how's it going? I'm so happy to be here. I've been having camera troubles and very frustrating, but hey, I'm still smiling. So I'm going to be talking about flexible, fast web apps with Next.js and GraphQL. I don't know why I chose this topic. It sounds cool. The topic itself, not the theme of what I'm about to talk about. But it makes it sound as if I'm going to be doing something really complex under the hood, which is not going to be the case. Flexible is because we're using GraphQL. GraphQL, a really flexible way of fetching and accessing data, and then fast. Next.js is doing all that work for me, making my website fast. So that's it. That's flexible fast web apps with Next.js and GraphQL. My name is Ebenezer Don. I'm a developer advocate at JetBrains for web and JavaScript. I should have done the introductions before. Anyway, okay. But one major question that you probably have right now is why are you even giving this talk? Why Next.js? I want to make a foolish assumption that you've heard of Next.js before, that this is not the first time. But even if you've not heard of Next.js before, let's keep moving. And then another assumption that you've worked with GraphQL before. Maybe not with Next.js, but in your regular React apps. But even if you've not, let's keep moving. Now, before I answer the question, why Next.js? I want to show you the application I'm going to be using to demo Next.js and GraphQL. This is my Next.js and GraphQL weekend multi-character app. I already have this. I've done something like this before for a React and GraphQL tutorial, which you can check out on my YouTube channel. But I decided to take it to the next level, so I updated the design, make it look much better, added like hover effects and all that. So it's looking pretty good. And I also added pagination. A lot of people requested for pagination with GraphQL, and this is a pagination with GraphQL and Next.js. I'm also going to be showing you how to do that. And as you can see, this is really fast. This is not my local host. This is already hosted, so you can check it out right now, multinextgraphql.vercel.app. But it's really fast, and that's Next.js doing all the work for me. These are images, these are not even text, but they are all statically rendered. So all this data you see right here, all the pages, they were generated during build time. All the GraphQL requests that were supposed to be made, they were made during build time. And right now, I'm just getting the pages the way I, hosted them. So that's it. I'm going to be showing you how I was able to put this together with Next.js and GraphQL. And why Next.js? Oh, unofficial king of SSR and SSG web apps. Seriously, I'm just joking. This is not to say anything about other frameworks because it's all personal choice. Even myself, right? That's why I say name by my humble self. That's because I'm using Next.js because I tried other frameworks. I used others, but when I got to Next.js, I was just kind of stuck with it because I really liked it. It's easy. So now, seriously, why Next.js? Lots of inbuilt functionalities, a lot of things that Next.js helped me do that I don't have to worry myself about. I just relax. I know that there are so many expert developers working on all this, like prefetching, statically generated apps, making your website fast, image optimization, build time, saving developers build time and all the rest. So inbuilt functionalities, really cool. Yep, fast compile time too. So fast compile time, especially with Next.js 12, where we have the Rust compiler. So yeah, that's really amazing. One other reason why I'm using Next.js, because they're really serious about this framework. It's easy to get started with too. Yep, Next.js is easy to get started with. It's free. You don't have to do extra configuration. And starting the Next.js project is as easy as starting the normal create React app project. So there's also the create next app CLI command for starting your Next.js project. So that makes it easy to get started with. And then it's also free to host. So it's easy to also host Next.js on, sites like Heroku, Netlify, but Vercel does a great job in making it really easy to host with Vercel. You can just integrate it with your normal GitHub repository or GitHub account, and then you can host in like a second or 5 seconds, and free. It's free also. That is amazing. That is amazing. So anyone can get started with it without spending anything. You only spend when you really need to. Yep, right there, easy to host. It's well documented too. So the Next.js team is doing a great job in the documentation of Next.js. really it's human readable, so human friendly. You know that these are humans writing the documentation, and they try to cover everything. So if they don't cover everything, right, it also has a Next.js also has a large community. So even if they don't cover everything, it's unlikely that you'll be the first to encounter a lot of problems, because there's already a large community behind Next.js. A lot of people have already encountered those problems, asked questions, resolved it, answered questions, and all that. And it's cool. You can ask questions and you can get help because of the large community, and that's important. Then, one which is very, very important, why we're using Next.js in the first place: SSRO, SSG, and ISRO. So SSRO is for server-side rendered applications. Yep, SSG, static site generated, and ISRO, incremental static regeneration. And the really amazing thing about Next.js is I can implement all of these three in one application. So all of these three types of rendering: server-side rendering, rendering my data, my page in the server there, static site generation, doing it on build time, generating all those pages and then hosting them, and then incremental static regeneration. Next.js helps us still, even if we've rendered our application statically, we have static web apps and all that. If we're using like dynamic data, Next.js is still going to help us check for that data and then update websites when needed and all that. Check for updates in the database or API and all that. And yep, so the link to the code base, which you can check out right now, github.com/epinism/Next.js Graphql multi-app. So you can go check it out right now. And then the link to the hosted app, if you want to try it out right now, multinextgraphql.vercel.app. Yep, so you can check it out right now while I'm still here and see what I'm doing. And that's it. We can go over to the API. So I want to use a GraphQL API, the Week and Multi API. Yep. Do I remember the URL? So here's where we get to put it. Yeah, I already have this set up. This is the Apollo Explorer, which is really good for exploring GraphQL APIs. So you have a GraphQL API you want to check out. You want to see what's inside the documentation and all that. You can just easily use the Apollo Explorer. So that's studio.apollographql.com. And I use this for exploring GraphQL APIs. And this is the API. So I want to put it here so that, no, that's not more visible. So this is weekendmultiapi.com/GraphQL. And right in your Apollo Explorer, go to the settings option and then put your API URL right there. Then we can now explore our API. Now, one thing I want to do, this is what we're going to be using: query, and want to fetch all characters, right? This is our weekend multi app, so we want to get all the characters. And the next thing we want to do is go over to the characters. So using the GraphQL, the Apollo Studio Explorer is as easy as this. So click on characters, and then we can decide what page we want. So do we want page 1 or page 2 or page 3 right here? So we can put 1 right here, and this is the page we want. And what else? We can add info for the data. So info contains okay, look at it right here, the count, so how the number of data, the number of characters, number of pages, and then next and previous pages. Then there's results, so which is the one we really want. For results, now that's going to give us all the characters, and then we can get the ID, name, status. So I can just go with name, something we can see right here, status, species, gender, location, and inside of location, now we need ID inside of the location, name, type, and all that. Then we can make a query, see what we have. Okay, so this is it. These are data, and it's as easy as that. Now we have a query, right? We can easily now take this query to a GraphQL app, so a GraphQL and Next.js or React app. We can take this query and then use it right there. If you're working with a WebStorm, so I should have WebStorm open up right here. There's also an easy way to do this in WebStorm. WebStorm has a GraphQL plugin right here. So you go to the marketplace, search for JS GraphQL plugin, you see that. And we can add a GraphQL config file. So right here in the GraphQL plugin, right, you click on the plus button and then add schema configuration. You choose where to add that schema configuration and OK. And then you should see something like this. Something like this with local hosts generated for you. And then you put the URL for the API. And if you want to test out the query, the next thing you'll have to do is run introspection. So you click this play button, run introspection, and that should generate a schema.graphql config file that takes all the data from the API data or the API schema, that describes what's in the API, what we can fetch and all that. And when you have that, you can now double click on this pane or this window for the GraphQL plugin, and that should be new. Click on new GraphQL. Is that visible right here? I want to get this up, but I hope you can see it's new GraphQL scratch file. And then you have your query here and you hit run, you see it. So that's it. You can use WebStorm to do that. You can use the Apollo Studio and even some GraphQL APIs. You can really just click on buttons and get your query and use them. So there are so many options. Now, this is the repository. This is the code base we're going to be using. And right now I have my GraphQL config. The first thing I want to show you is the Apollo config.js file. So the client, this is where we're creating the client. So we need the client to be able to fetch data from GraphQL, and that's gotten from the Apollo/client package. So you can run npm install Apollo/client and you get this package. And then we'll need the Apollo client. This is how we're going to fetch data, which we're going to see right now, and the in-memory cache. This is cool for caching our API requests. A lot of people say that web development has gotten or is getting too complex, and so many, like, the frameworks are making things more difficult for us. But I think these frameworks are and the libraries are actually helping us. The problem is we humans, we want things, we need more. We always need more. We want things to be faster, more dynamic, and all that. And these frameworks, these libraries are just helping us keep up with that. So normally to implement things like this, you need to do them yourselves. But right now we can just create a client, export it, and then use that. And this is where I used it in the index. Nope, not right here. I think that should be this is client-side rendering with query. So right here, right, I want to show you client-side rendering with query. And what client-side rendering means is that this data it's just like working with your normal React. So let's say you are not using Next.js, normal React, you work with your normal React. So you go to you use GraphQL in your React code, you open up the React web app, and right there is when the data is going to be fetched. So firstly, you just get an empty index.html file with an empty div, and then you fetch your GraphQL data right there on the client, and then use that to populate the page. So that's client-side rendering. And this is how we can do that with Next.js. First of all, we import the Apollo provider from Apollo/client on line 7 right here. We wrap all our component data inside of the Apollo provider so that we can access it from any component. And then we import our client and use it right here as a prop. So this is the client. So that when we do this, we can come over to the index.js file where I have my characters. And then on line 7 right here, I can just use the use query to fetch all characters. And this is the client that we've already wrapped all our components in, and then fetches the GraphQL data. So data right here gives us the data loading when the data is loading, right? Or when our query is being made, when our request is being made, do something, and error, if there's an error, we get that. So this is using use query. Now, there could be a problem with this though, because since this is Next.js, right, this is how we would normally do it with React. But since this is Next.js, it's possible, right, that this gets called during build time. So everything, because Next.js tries to render everything during build everything, or what's the word for it? Get everything done during build time. So this gets called during build time while it's still trying to build the application, and then we can have maybe clashes. This is going to be done probably going to be done during build time, and then while we are during the render time or during the client side accessing time, when we open up the web page, we're trying to see the data, and then we're trying to do this again. So there can be a lot of problem with that. A way to ensure that this is only going to be done when the user loads up the web page is by putting this in the use effect. That's one of the ways. So we put this in the use effect, and in that way, we're going to ensure that this is only going to be done after the page has been loaded. Right here, we get our data and all that. But now, how can we access this data? Right, this is one of the ways. I would have shown you not more difficult, but a little bit more complex way, which is actually a lot better if you're working with, if it's not just a simple app like what we have here. From Kurt, which he has right here in the Getting Started with Apollo Client and Next.js app. So please check it out. And that aside, but this is just the explanation, right? You do this in use effect and then make sure it's going to be done. And in that way, you make sure that that's only going to be done in the client side time. So let me show you the implementation I did for this. I'm gonna revert this and then go over to my, so I've named these branches in case you want to check out the repository. I have the client-side rendering with query, and then just client-side rendering without query. Yeah. So right here is where I use the use effect. So this is what I did. I have my state for characters, set characters, and fetch error and set fetch error. And then on line 13, I'm making my query. So this time around, I'm using client.query. I'm not using the use query anymore, but this is still client side. So I'm importing client from the Apollo config, which we created right here. And then inside of the index.js file, I'm using client.query to fetch the GraphQL data. And when I fetch the data, I'm then setting that to the set characters, the character state on line 8. And I also put this inside an async function and called it immediately. So this is an immediately invoked function inside of the use effect. And that's it. That's how I got this. But please, if your application is going to be more complex than this, it's better to go with the explanation here. I'm in such a hurry. Wow. I don't know how much time I have left. Now I want to show you client side, server side rendering or static side rendering. It's almost the same thing. So I'm going to show you static side rendering. There's the one without pagination. The implementation is quite different without pagination and with pagination. So there's one without pagination, which I'm going to show you right now. So what I did was inside of the components folder, I created the cards. This card component represents all the different cards we can see right here. So that's for the card component, all the different cards. So that's the card component, and then it expects data. And inside of the index.js file, I'm calling the card component right here. That's it right here, and then giving the character data to a card. Now the different thing this time around, we're using characters from the prop, right, from the home prop, the home component prop. The different thing with Next.js is that we can do this get static props, right? Remember, this is static side generation. So this one, all the pages are built during build time and then hosted. So you want to open up the web page, you just get the HTML and you just get the HTML directly with the data. Now this is the get static. Next.js has a get static props function, which we can use to generate the static props. So right here we can fetch our data. So make our API request using the client.query get all characters. I forgot to show you get all characters. So this is what's inside of the get all characters query. Just the same thing. Remember I showed you the query. So this get all characters using GQL from Apollo client, and then we have our query right here. Just the same query we had in the Apollo Explorer. So characters, results, ID, name, image, status, species, location. And that's inside of get all characters. And then back to index.js, we fetch it, and then we provide that as a prop. So when we do this right now, this prop characters is going to be made available to this home component, and we can now use it. And you know, when we build this Next.js application, during build time, the request is going to be made, the GraphQL API request is going to be made, and then that data is going to be given to our application, and then you know that's going to be used to build the application and build all the pages. And that's it. If you wanted to do this during server time, so if you wanted this to be server-side rendered instead of static side generated, instead of get static props, Next.js also has get server-side. So this should be the spelling. Yeah, get server-side props. What do we have here? Maybe a type. Yeah. So next, WebStorm is telling me that it's supposed to be this get server and then capital letter side props. I hope that's correct. Okay, so we do that, and then this is going to be done, you know, during it's going to be server side rendered, and that's it. I would have set the timer. Okay, now we also have the one with pagination. So let me show you how the one with pagination is done. I'm going to set the timer the next time I do something like this. Now I don't know how much time I have left. Okay. This is the one with pagination, and what I did differently, right? In Next.js, since we are using paginated data this time around, one for page 1, for page 2, for page 3, for page 4, page 5, and all the rest. Next.js has a way to generate dynamic pages, and how we do that is by wrapping the name of the file. So inside of the pages folder, we wrap the name of the file inside in a square bracket. So that's page.js, and with this, we can now generate all the different pages we need for our application. Now, but before that, let me show you the update I made to the GraphQL query. So right here in the GraphQL query, I've added the, similar to what we saw in the Apple Explorer, I've added the page variable. So page variable right here, so that when we are calling when we're making a request to get the different pages, we want page 1, we just put get all characters and then variables as page 1. I should show you that right now, right here. So get all characters and then variables, the page 1 or page 2 or page 3 or page 4, and that's going to fetch all the different pages. Now, what is going on here? Before I show you get static props, I have to show you get static paths. So when we have this right now, remember this is the page in square brackets .js, which is going to help us generate page for all the pages. So page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, and all the rest. So get static paths. First of all, want to get the data, so we're going to do this client.query get page info. This is another query I created, and right here this is the page info. Just characters. I showed you this. We went through this together in the Apple Explorer. So just characters, info, and then the pages. So the GraphQL API is going to return the number of pages for us. So I think it's like 36 pages. So it returns the number of pages, and that's what we want to use here to be able to generate like 36 pages for our pages. And let's see, client.query get page info, line 12 now, number of pages right here. So data.characters.info.pages, and then I'm adding +1 to the number of pages so that I can generate an array of pages from here using the spread operator and the array keyword number of pages.keys. This is just normal JavaScript. So generates an array of pages. So that array is going to be like, it's going to look like this. So array 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 until 36. So it's going to look something like that. And that's our array of pages. Now that was the problem there. Okay. Now that we have an array of pages, we're now getting the paths. So for paths, array of pages.map, and then for each page, inside of params we have page, and then that is this. So this is either page and then pages 1 or pages 2, pages 3, pages 4, pages 5, and this is going to generate all the paths. So that's why right here we have /1. So this is a path, or /2 or /3 or /4. So /4 is going to take us to page 4. So that's how we generated that's how we have all the paths. So we have path for /1, /2, /3. And I've wrapped this in a string, a template literal, so that it's a string, because Next.js is going to throw an error if this is a number. If we just have page right here, this is going to be an error because it's a number, but we need string for the path since it's a path. So I've wrapped this in a string literal, a template literal, so that we have a string. So string 1, string 2, string 3, string 4, and all that. And then we return the paths and fall back as false. Okay. Now that's how we got the paths right here. That's how we got all the pages, all the different pages right here, which we returned. So paths and then all the different pages. And that's what we're going to be using on line 26 for a page. And so for each page right now, right, since we have all the pages, so this is going to, remember, this file is for all the different, I think like 36 different pages. And then for each page, right now saying query, get all characters, and then variable is either page 1 or page 2. So right here, the GraphQL API is expecting a number, but our page, which we generated, we converted it to a string right here. So page 1 is a string, 2 is a string, and all that. That is why right here on line 29, I'm converting it back to a number so that I can use that to query the GraphQL API, because that is expecting a number. And so page is either 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and so on. That's going to generate all the pages for us. Okay, so now we have all our different pages with the respective data for those pages. What do we do next? Inside of the index.js file, right here, right here inside of this is correct, right? Yep, I created a characters component so that I can then use it for the different pages. So inside of the index.js file, first of all, I have page 1. This is page 1. So get all characters, by default that returns page 1. But what I want you to see, what's more important, is this: for all the different pages that's inside of this place. So now that we have the characters, this is going to fetch data for page 1, page 2, page 3, page 4, and we have all the characters. we can now use it inside here as a prop. So for page 1, use this character, and this is the character data. For page 2, this is the character data. For page 3, this is the character data. And then what's inside of our character component, just the normal HTML or JSX, CSS stuff. So this is it, JSX with classes, and then if the page is greater than 1, so right here on line 27, page greater than 1 shows the previous page, and then yeah, we can always see the next page. So this is when we get to the last page, we'll probably get an error, but you can fix that later with a condition. So this is the next page, and then this is the href now. So right here we are getting the number. So right here I'm converting to, let's see, okay, no, I don't, yeah, I'm converting to a string again, right? Right here on line 28. So but I want to do this page for previous page, the current page minus 1 takes us to the, if the current page is 3, previous page is 2, so that's 3 minus 1, which is 2. And then for the next page, the current page plus 1, so that's page plus 1, 3 plus 1, which is 4, so that's the next page. Yep, that's how I was able to implement this. I don't know how much time I spent or how much time I have left, or if I have any time left, but yeah, this is it. On line 8 right here, I'm saying page is equal to the router.query.page. I'm getting the current page from router.query, and then either that or 1. So if there's no router.query, that means that if right here, this is router.query.page, right, 4, so that's 4 or 5 or 6. But if there's nothing right here, give us 1 by default, and that's it. All right, yep, I know I rushed through this, and you're probably wondering why I'm trying to explain things to you that are this complex. I hope it wasn't complex, but let me know. Let me know what you think about this. I'm going to create a more detailed tutorial on Next.js, a step-by-step tutorial on building this stuff, just in case this was too fast for you. But I try to cover a lot of things in a short period of time, so sorry. And please, let's keep in touch. So check out my YouTube channel, youtube.com/Ebenezer. Don't check out my current GraphQL course and the one I'm going to bring in the future. Follow me on LinkedIn. You can message me on LinkedIn too. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I try to reply. github.com/Ebenezer. Don't follow me on GitHub. That'll be awesome. And reach out to me on Twitter. All right, that's it. I successfully finished this. Okay, see you next time. Bye.